the power of setting goals, and that's one of the part of the study and how it is so profound to direct energy, come together each morning to know the truth, get some inspiration, and just have some coffee together.
Have some coffee, there you go.
Coffee conversations that can change the world, right?
I like it.
So how was your stay downtown, Erin?
I mean, I wouldn't even say. I worked from there yesterday, and I was on, I worked all day after here, but I had, I think, like 5 hours of client work there, and it was interesting because it was just such a different environment, and I'm looking out at the city, and I can't really see that, it's amazing that LA, each area of LA, every 3 miles, they call it the 3 mile zone, right? It's like each area, it's like there's 10 cities within the city, don't you think?
Oh,
right?
totally. Views are, not just a Drake album, views are really important. Like I remember moving to Miami from Philadelphia, and I thought, man, they charge like $500 more, $700 more for a view of the bay. But let me tell you, when I walked into my friend's place who had a view of the bay, I was like, wow, I get it. It changes the entire feel and look of your place. So views matter.
No, it's so important to find the neighborhood you like to live. I'm not going to lie, Beverly Hills speaks to me. I'm a little bit bougie. I'm okay with that.
I love that, Jess. Right? Embrace your abundance.
It's like living in someone else's vacation.
Laptop lifestyle, and I think it's an interesting time because I think for me personally, hotels, I don't care for hotels as much just because every time you got to pay for your car to be parked, you got to pay to touch anything. It's just like, it just feels like I can't just relax and not think about I've already paid for it, I don't want to think about it anymore. And then there's the Airbnb where you go and you don't know what the hell you're going to get. You're like, I don't know, let's take a chance and stay here, And so I think it's really cool because they've done this, platform called Urban Flat. And so they take kind of a very sophisticated kind of gamers and ballers and stuff like that. And so you know what you're going to get. It's like great attire and interior design and stuff. So fun.
That. I want to thank them in advance for my Urban Flat. Yeah. The pre-paving right there.
I want to
receive.
Absolutely. I want to thank the staff at the Beverly Hills Concierge Doctor. They took great care of me and my little veins yesterday. I went for my first ever vitamin drip.
So how was it?
Well, it was an interesting experience. I was absolutely terrified, to tell you the truth, but the staff was so kind and so patient. Time will tell. I don't know if I feel any different yet, but I know I was desperately in need of a little hydration and vitamins. So thanks to that staff for taking such good care of me, and the doctor's going to be on next week.
Super cool. How long did it take, Jez?
Well, they were like, it's going to take about an hour, and I thought, okay. I laid there, and they gave me a nice, cozy blanket. I was done in 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I just soaked up that stuff. Apparently, I really needed it.
Body was like a little sponge.
I guess so. I guess so. So that was super interesting and very LA, but it was a really neat experience.
Super cool. You know what else was a neat experience and interesting? Our guest yesterday.
It was a great show yesterday. We have a look at the rewind. Let's take a peek.
It's solar plexus stuff, right? It's like finding your personal power and not just like knowing that you have power, but actually stepping into it. We have this interesting,
That's it's a solar plexus thing.
It's so true, though.
So true, right?
By the time I was 10, I was ranked 4th in the nation. I worked with Michael Phelps as coach for 3.5 years. I qualified for Olympic trials. I went to the Naval Academy. But then when I got dropped from SEAL training, it just sent me in a tailspin. It sent me in a tailspin for 20 years. And, I blamed my dad. I blamed the military. Like, every situation, I found an excuse or a reason. And it wasn't until I was literally $32,000 in credit card debt. I had less than $5,000 to my name and every account in the world. Everything I owned was in a 10 by 10 storage unit, and I was literally sleeping on an air mattress in a buddy's house that was getting foreclosed on. And that was my, this isn't anybody else's fault. This is me.
So supposedly, 64% of all children are being raised by?
In America, yes, over 64% of Americans have a nanny. And that is a staggering statistic when you think about it. People think that it's just for the rich and famous. They think it's just the Upper East Side of New York. They think of the Nanny Diaries and Scarlett Johansson. They think, Nanny, Mr. and Mrs. X. And that's not what it is today. This is, what is going on across America. So it could be Beverly Hills. It could be the Upper East Side of New York. But it's also small town Iowa. I mean, these people have everyone helping them raise their children, and that tribe that they have around them consists of different people.
so
guess.
important, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know 64% of children are being raised by caregivers at some level, and so important to pick the mindset and make sure it's a safe environment and feel good as parents.
Yeah.
Having someone take care of your child.
Flo is the expert on it, boy.
Someday I want to flow in my life. And how cool was Brooks Holland, by the way?
I love his story. I think it's really important for men in particular, people that, or anyone who's just kind of holding it in and they're kind of afraid to go to that therapy or healing thing. It's kind of like a little bit woo-woo for some people, and they gotta break through that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was really important when he was mentioning self-sabotage, and I think that brings us to a really interesting point in the conversation today, is how we might be sabotaging ourselves from really living the life that we're meant to do by not setting necessary goals.
Yeah, so fascinated by this study. So actually for years I've been running masterminds, and I always say, because it's kind of well known in the industry, that approximately about only 3% of the population actually sets goals, and only 1% of them really looks at them every day, is what I've always heard through. And I've always just thrown out that stat and said, but don't quote me, I don't know where that comes from exactly. So one of my clients actually sent me an article that has all of the different studies around it.
Wow.
So they've done multiple studies on that, but they did one in particular from Harvard, and basically it says that so they took the whole classroom, and 84% of them basically didn't set goals at all. And then the next 13% set goals, but they had no plan whatsoever. And then 3% of them actually set a plan and actually set goals and had a plan. So 10 years later, they come back and they have keeping track of everyone. And basically the 13% that set the goals made double of what the people that didn't have goals. And then the 3% that set the goal and had a plan made 10 times anybody else.
That is incredible.
What?
Setting goals.
Wow.
It's critical.
Right?
You want to make money, be successful, you want to set goals.
Have a plan, not just a general goal. What is the goal and what's your plan? And of course you can adjust it. Goals aren't set in stone. You adjust accordingly, but they really help plan it out.
I think that's the really interesting point, though, is the plan, because so many people don't write down the plan, and I know I haven't in the past because I don't know what the plan is. I have these great goals, but I don't know the necessary steps to get there. So you write it and just kind of hope you figure it out, or you meet the right person along the way, rather than me knowing strategically the steps I need to take to navigate that path.
It's such a good point, Jez, and this study is fantastic, and there's some complexity there that's sort of hidden in the sort of conclusion that they came to, which is, what causes a person to set goals in the first place, and is it that which causes them to set goals also that which is leading them to experience the success or right, or making more money.
Right.
So it might not just be the setting the goals part. So to that end, it is often hard to know what you should be doing with your life, or what you want to do with your life, or the plan to get there, even if you do know what you want to do with your life. And so the one recommendation that I've discovered and I share with clients is to, you might not always know what to do, but you always know what you want to feel. So if you can set a goal around that in and of itself, that you want to have a certain experience, that you want to, and a certain feeling that you want to sort of embody, that in and of itself is a goal, and that will lead to you discovering other steps along the way that are more tangible or material or physical.
We call it closing the gaps. If there's something you don't know what to do, I don't know how to raise capital, I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z, I don't know how to do this technology, you actually schedule out researching or finding a partner that actually knows those things, so that you actually schedule it out. So you're like, okay, my goal is by this date, I'm going to have whatever it may be, funding or whatever it is, you schedule that and make it happen. You either are committed to that or not, and so it just happens.
It's a great idea. The other thing that is helpful, that I found helpful, is finding somebody else out there in the world who can be a model for what you want to achieve or become in your life, and then just look at their path and see if you can just find a few,
a coach, right?
You can lift some stuff that worked for them and apply it to your own life, and see if that plan that they used will also work for you.
Yeah,
this gives you a start.
So true.
Yeah,
which brings me to another point. So I've had multiple clients or multiple people I'm talking about. We're talking about goal setting and all this stuff, and we're getting into the abundant mindset, and they go, well, how do I, feel abundant and all this stuff when I have credit card debt?
It's a great question.
And it's a reoccurring question all the time, and I think it's really important to talk about it, because how can you have a goal of saying oh, I'm going to be a millionaire, but I have all this debt and credit, and how do I just pretend like that doesn't exist and just focus over here? And that's not how it works at all. We have to strategically acknowledge that the same creative factor within created that debt, and so in that we can use that same creative factor to pay off that debt and to begin to purchase assets, begin to leverage, begin to create abundance. And so it's not it's not like but you don't get fearful, because you know the truth. Like, if I'm that powerful to to create the debt. I'm not powerful to get myself out of debt.
It's such a good point, Erin. Like, I would always wonder about that myself and say to myself, oh man, I don't have enough faith. I need more faith in order to accomplish things that I want to accomplish. But I realized that faith is a feeling, and fear is just negative faith. It's just faith in the negative.
Yeah, totally.
Right? That's all that fear is. And so if I have this incredible fear or doubt, that same energy can be shifted or transformed and focused on that which is positive, and that's what we call faith. So you already have the faith. It's just a question of where it's channeled. Is it channeled and focused on something that's negative, and then therefore you feel fearful and doubtful, or is it focused on something positive that you want to have happen, and then we call that faith?
So what do you do in the meantime?
Yeah.
Let's say you figured it out, but you still have the debt and you haven't received the check. So how do you keep that faith without doubting yourself?
Yeah.
Because you can know it and you can make that conscious choice. This is going to be my mindset. I am that powerful. I know I can clear that debt, pay this off, partner with my funds, build the empire I want to build. What do you do in the meantime?
It's a great question. I think first of all, you deepen your faith in faith itself, because a lot of us just don't have any faith that faith will do anything of itself. So we know from science, for instance, that optimism leads to better results in all areas of your life. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you've probably had experiences in your past where you felt abundant or you felt confident. It may have been as a child where you were just sort of making believe. And so you can revisit those past memories and try to relive them again, just through memory, or you can do what we call controlled reverie, which is simply just, right when you wake up in the morning or right before you go to bed at night, when your mind is very quiet and you're almost about to sort of slip off into sleep, you can imagine a scene and with the intention of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So you just imagine the scene where all of your dreams would come true, and you try to embody the feeling. The real focus is on the feeling itself and not on all of the other conditions and circumstances that surround that. But as you do that, you'll practice this vibration of feeling more abundant. So it doesn't have to be something that you only discover through conditions and circumstances. You can play make-believe in your mind.
I'm going to definitely have to try that one at night, because that pre-coffee I don't think is really going to be a good plan, but I'll try and do that at night.
Yeah. Neville Goddard's great for that, right? I know Neville Goddard, he used to write very short books, 10, 15, 20, 30 pages, but it was all about assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Like right now, even if you want to embody a feeling of confidence, you can quiet your mind and you can just fill yourself up with confidence. You can do the same thing with abundance, and it just takes practice.
Yeah.
Or being a really good actor.
Or being a really good actor. Yeah, all those actors out there, they should be good at it.
Tap into that emotion. That's really incredible. Well, one of our guests today is teaching us really how to find your spark and leave your mark. I'm so Elon to the show. Good morning, back in the studio. How are you today?
Good morning. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for sharing your time and your light with us. Here on Good Morning, LALALAND, we like to know how you start your day, what your morning routine is. Could you share that with us?
Absolutely. So you said a lot of amazing things, just now in the opening segment, and I think that to change behavior is one of the toughest things. And I often say to people, you're not what you eat, you are what you repeat, and that's because the only way to change behavior is through repetition. So what you do every day when you wake up in the morning, for example, is so important. What I do when I wake up is the first thing, I'll tell you what I don't do is I don't touch this for the first 60 minutes after waking up. That's because when you wake up, your mind is in an alpha state. It's between dreaming and awake a state of being awake. And so it's very receptive to whatever you feed it. So if you get on your cell phone and you're looking at social media, you can be affected by the news. Your whole state can be affected by things that you aren't really planning for your day. So the first thing I do is I'll get out there and I'll meditate for 20 minutes. So spending about 20 minutes meditating, priming the mind, opening the mind. The next 20 minutes I'll do some stretching, some yoga, different poses. And the last 20 minutes I will really set my goals for the day and think about the priorities, talk about goal setting. I really try to focus on the things that I want to do and accomplish throughout the day, and make sure that I plan it in and that I follow through on them.
I love the idea of priming. Prime your mind, prime your body, prime your spirit. I usually just prime for my makeup, but I could incorporate that across the board. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're excited to talk to you more later in the show.
Repetition.
Right.
I love that.
Love that.
Absolutely.
It is true, because I was thinking about even if I decided, even if I have faith, even if I know the truth, you embody it, but it doesn't go into the automated system until you repeat it. Yeah. So true, right?
Yeah, it's the repetition, and that's why it's great to sort of set some kind of schedule for practicing it, right? I mean, for me, like, it's the first thing that I do in the morning, the last thing I do at night. I just want to put myself in that space as often as I can, so that it eventually becomes a routine, and then it becomes easy, you know. But I think before, when I wasn't nearly as consistent, it was impossible. It was impossible to feel confident or abundant or any of those things. So.
And it's different. Each person's different. For one person, they're going to go into a silent meditation. For another person, like I have a girlfriend that she's a singer, and she gets in there by singing and just getting into that flow. Some people like to exercise and they quiet their mind out in the woods where they're running, you know. So it depends on how people tap in.
It's such a great point, and it is an art as much as it is a science, right? And so I think it's important just to track those things that make you feel abundant with very little time, energy, and effort. So for me, running was a good example, listening to music is a good example, meditation is a good example. In the beginning, I could never visualize and I could never embody any of these feelings that I wanted to embody so that I could attract the conditions and circumstances that I wanted. So I just did more of those things that allowed me to feel tapped in, tuned in, turned on, easily and effortlessly and enjoyably.
It's so hard to remove the guilt that can surround that too. You know, the things that feel good, the things that turn you on, when you have all these other obligations to meet these goals that you've got to get. Just take that time for yourself to really prime, or that 60 minutes, as our guest said, without his phone. It seems almost excessive. But really, it's the common denominator. The only way you're going to set these goals is if you take care of yourself first.
I know.
Oh my
Isn't
gosh,
it amazing
so true,
how
Jazz.
all the guests, like everyone who's doing internal work, it's all, I mean, it's very common. It's all different, like the semantics change a little bit, but it's all the same work, right?
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why they always say that you can take any one principle in your life, and if you go deep enough into that principle, you'll discover all the other principles because they're all one, right? And I agree with what you're saying there, Jazz, in terms of the self-care piece and the guilt around that. I struggled with that for a long time myself. And I had to eventually come to the realization through lots of reading, particularly scientific stuff, that my happiness and my peace was my gift to the world and was my gift to my family and friends. And until you come to really, truly, deeply believe that and see that and experience that, it is hard to not feel guilty about taking time for yourself. Yeah.
That's so important. Thanks for sharing that, Rob.
Yeah.
Is that your happiness hack for the day?
Is that my happiness hack for the day? That's part of it. Yeah, I think, you know, it's the control of everything, and I have to sort of attribute and commend both of you for reminding me of the importance of just being able to embody an emotion when you want. At the end of the day, that's what cognitive emotional regulation and agility is. And when you can turn it on, turn it off, at will.
Right.
You can do
That's
anything.
why I think being an actor, like the actors, is really kind of one of the highest forms of spirituality.
It is.
We're really not this whole like suit and this like I'm this person.
Yeah.
And it's like we kind of like took on this actor. Like I'll take that kind of an actor, like down this lineage and whatever. And it's like who do you want to be today? You know?
Absolutely.
Can you go in and out of it? Children can be crying hysterically one minute and they snap out of like, oh, let's go play ball. Then I'm over and they like,
oh my gosh.
And they're
It's
in and
so
out of
true.
their emotions and they're not they can just create them and then uncreate them.
You know, it's such a good point, and part of the reason I think they do that so well is because of the childlike faith and because they're not stuck in this obsessive, compulsive, overanalyzing, worrisome mind. So they're able to just to tap in immediately. And I discovered that. I remember, the first role I ever did on UPN, and I remember having so much trouble, like, just embracing the character and being able to step into the role because I was so stuck in my head about it. And then I realized that little kids can do it all the time. They're able to pretend like they're angry, then they pretend like they're sad, and then they pretend like they're happy, and they just...
Yeah.
So, it's a mind that just can't stop thinking, which creates a barrier between you and that which you want to feel.
Mm-hmm. So well said. Yeah. I got my therapist session.
I got my therapy too, you guys. I get it every day hanging out with you guys.
I know, it's so cool, you guys. So let's take a break. When we come back, we will dive into some more conversation about Wealth Wednesday. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Toya, and I am a woman warrior. As a little girl, my joints got swollen. I was walking on crutches. Nobody really knew what was wrong with me. And when we finally figured out that I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, it was pretty hard to learn that I had an autoimmune disease because there's no cure. Back then, it was so expensive to get treatment. My family didn't have a lot of money. My joints would get swollen and I would have to get them drained. Imagine sticking needles in your knees and draining all the fluid just so that you can move around. I've been picked on my entire life. And my mom always taught me what other people think about you is their problem, not yours. It was just something within that I've always wanted to do my best no matter what. And I think that came from having this disease and knowing that there was no cure. And so you take one weakness or sickness and you turn it into something positive, and you just learn Don't complain, just find a solution.
Hi, I'm Courtney Friel, and I am a woman warrior. I don't really like feelings too much, and that's why I discovered alcohol and drugs, because I could just escape those feelings, and that made me feel better. It was right around the time when all the celebrities were dying, Heath Ledger, DJ, and they were just mixing a bunch of different things. Ultimately, I was interventioned with 7 people around my bed. I was sobbing in the green room closet in between shows recently because I was lonely. I went through a divorce and I had to see who I was as an adult outside of a relationship, and that's challenging. And so it's something I still struggle with. I have to keep going. I've got 2 little kids that I tell Cash and Cameron, and that is other people's problems with you are their problems. They're not your problems.
I'm Megan Henderson, and I'm a woman warrior. My dad's cancer process was not very long, so I would fly back on weekends to be with him, and I would spend all day, morning to night, in the hospital with him. Seeing him that way, seeing him so vulnerable, seeing your dad that way, it was, you know, really hard and really shocking in some ways, but it was also sort of this quiet bonding moment that we had. He was able, kind of for the first time, to let me show my strength with him. It's been many, many, many years since he's passed, but of course, I mean, I think about him all the time, and especially in those big moments. It's like he never got to see the woman I became, and I think he would have been surprised in some ways at the woman I became. If I could say one more thing to my father, it would be, I think, the mantra that I try to say every day, which are those 2 words, thank you.
I'm Christina Pascucci, and I am a woman warrior. One of the most painful moments I had to endure was when I was 10 years old and someone that I really loved deeply and trusted was facing an addiction and had a lot of demons and was on a drug-fueled rampage and attacked me. And as painful as that was, that for me was a defining moment. I am grateful for it. It's really made me appreciate people and have compassion for them. I'm thinking about what their life journey has been like, what hardships have they gone through. If I see someone who's lashing out in pain, what's the story behind that? What's really pissing them off? And I don't think I would have had that life perspective or appreciation for humans to the extent that I do had I not been through what I went through.
Find your spark and leave your mark. We have got the master of just that, author, entrepreneur, speaker, mentor, Elon Devon. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I find your story truly remarkable. Take us back to the moment that really changed your life.
Okay, so this was 21 years ago. I was a soldier in the Israeli army, and in Israel, when you're 18, 19, you finish high school, you go to the army. I was no exception, and I found myself in this combat intelligence unit, which was at the time placed in southern Lebanon, so we were in active combat. And I luckily didn't have any incident there, but I was home, and I had a date. So every 3-4 weeks, you go home, and I was very fortunate to be going on a date. I was so excited, because that's sort of what you look forward to when you're, you know, a soldier in the front. And we're going to have lunch. And so, you know, we meet and we're sitting down for lunch. And as I'm gesturing, the waiter's coming over, and my date turns to me and she says, you know, I don't feel like having lunch. Can we have an ice cream instead? And so we walk down the road, literally 20, 30 yards down the road, turn left on one of the side streets, and we sit down and we're having ice cream. And the next thing you know, we're flirting and having this great time, it's like a clap of thunder. And you know, we're looking at each other, and before our mouths could find words, there's a second explosion. And now the soldier in me is kicking in, and I realize something real going on. And so I reach out to Ayelet, my date, and as I do that, there's a third explosion. And it happens right around the corner from where we're sitting, literally 10, 15 yards away. And so we lock hands and we're running in the opposite direction. And, you know, mayhem, pandemonium, chaos, all the things you'd expect in an incident like this. And we managed to hide ourselves in a little alleyway, you know, somewhere close by. And we wait for the ambulances and the bomb squads to descend upon the scene, and they get on, you know, the megaphones, and they say that it's okay to come out after minutes. So we get out, and I drop Bayel at home, and it's a very silent car ride. We're just all shocked at what just happened. And I think she gets out, and I say, well, how's that for a first date? And I go home, and this is before the cell phone era, so we didn't know what happened. I just knew something really terrible happened. And I open the nightly news and get a sense of what just transpired. And it was a triple suicide bombing in downtown Jerusalem. 180 to 200 people were injured, many severely. 5 people were killed. 2 of those for the very restaurant, very patio, very table where we sat before going for the ice cream.
Wow.
So if it wasn't for literally having that ice cream, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So
wow.
Yeah, so that definitely, like a mixture of emotions after an incident like that. I was grateful to be alive. I was sad for the people that obviously weren't as fortunate. I was angry, shocked, but the one thing I took with me is I said to myself, Elon, if you're alive, I want to believe that there's a purpose. I need to believe there's a purpose. I'm going to find that purpose. I'm going to live that purpose. And that's sort of my waking up story.
So what was your roadmap to finding that purpose?
So it was leaving everything that leaving everything that I knew. I left Israel, left my family, left my friends, went to study in England, and I thought I'd be a diplomat like my father. But I realized very quickly that wasn't the path for me. I was actually working in an embassy, studying political science, but I found I had this passion for spirituality. And this is before it really became a fad, you know, in the late 90s. I mean, yoga meditation wasn't as big as it is today. So, you know, what do you do with it? And so I just discovered that, and I said, okay, that's going to be a nice hobby, and I'll dabble in it here and there, but that's something I'll come back to after I retire and make some money and all that. And then I got a job in New York, because you got to work, and I had a great job in the corporate sector in Manhattan. And 2-3 months into it, I just felt this calling, this urge. I got to obey and sort of respect and honor this sense of purpose that I want to fulfill. And so I left that, and I went to study. I studied archaeology, and comparative ancient civilizations. I then studied anthropology and comparative religion. And what I realized I was doing was mapping thousands of years of human experience and finding patterns to how people find their spark and leave their mark on the world. And so with that, my own sense of purpose was coming together, which is drawing upon all of this ancient wisdom and packaging it into tools and strategies that people can use in a very practical way. And so that's, in a sense, what brings me here today.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we have to ask, what happened to the intuitive woman that you went on?
That, you know, this, I guess she, in a way, it's funny, she almost killed my, you know, because of the date, I almost lost my life, but she saved my life. And let's just say it didn't work out well afterwards.
Reasons and seasons.
But it was a reason. She woke me up. I imagine this incident woke her up as well, and but that was it.
Yeah, no, it's just a
yeah.
So that's so amazing, wonderful, the path, and you know, of course, we talk a lot with different people that have, you know, woke up and are doing extraordinary work, and we find a lot of commonalities in the work: habits, mindset, reprogram the subconscious mind. So for you, what does that look like?
So what I tell people, I work with people of different ages, and I say, imagine that when you were born, somebody downloads a playlist into your mind. But it's not a playlist of songs, right? It's a playlist of ideas and beliefs. And all your life, you're walking around looking at the world through the prism, but really the prison of those ideas and beliefs. And our job in life is to peel away those models which are entrenched in us, to discover our own values, voice, purpose, potential, and bring that to the world. And it's kind of like you have to go through an initiation, and I believe that, you know, you've got to separate from people, places, powers, and ideas that in some way define you, because everything that defines you also confines you. And so that's my guiding philosophy.
Tweetable lessons here.
It reminds me of my favorite quote from the Tao Te Ching, which is the truth that can be told, or the Tao that can be told, is not the real truth. It's not the real Tao.
Yes.
And, so I wonder about that when you are helping people step into this place of deeper peace and power by realizing the ways in which their own thoughts and beliefs circumscribe their experience of the world. How do you help them get there? Is it meditation? Is it,
well, it's meditation is part of it, but it's really action. And everyone today is focusing on passion. I focus on the pain. You gotta confront your fears. You gotta confront your pain. You gotta do things that are uncomfortable for you, because that is where your promise lies. And I believe that I've sort of mapped this, and my next book called The Initiation is gonna really tease this out. But the most successful, innovative, creative people on the planet have to separate or be initiated by separating from 3 foundational things in their life, sometimes 4. And they are your father, mother, family, your community, your tribe, your culture, your ethos, your comfort zone by tackling your fears, and sometimes your physical body, because separation from the physical leads to a realignment with the spiritual, where you realize that you're not your body, there's something much deeper. And so I can get into each one of them, but our parents, for example, it's interesting, all the religious founders, looking at mythology, they all left the father, or they never knew their father. And that's because they had to find the father within. And so I talk to people about how, if the seed is going to manifest its creative potential, it always has to separate from its source. Now, it's not a physical separation, but it's a psychological separation. And how you do that sometimes is somewhat of a physical separation. It was for me, but it's really about a psychological separation.
So interesting, because obviously we know tribally and things, to be initiated, you generally leave the tribe, you go out, and you're challenged in ways that really has them find that strength within, and that's really the true initiation. And it's so fascinating when you get into like the hero's journey and all these stories, and how it's always like overcoming the trials and tribulations, and it's like I always question, like, do we really have to go through all this to
I know.
It seems like I don't think there's a way around that. It's just kind of the
way
human,
around it.
We're in this school called life, and this is what this university is up to,
I think so. And I'm really interested in how people change. And I say people don't change by seeing the light, people change by feeling the fire, feeling the heat. And that fire comes from 2 sources. Well, and just to elaborate on that, we all know what we need to do to change our lives and make it better. That doesn't make us do it. A lot of people want to, get a 6-pack, stop smoking, land their dream job. They know what they need to do, they don't do it. And so you need a spark which lights a fire of committed, repeated action. And that spark comes from 2 sources, and 2 sources only in every human being, and that's passion and pain. Everybody looks at the passion. The pain is more important, because even when you find your passion, it's going to bring you pain. The pain of disappointment, of failure, of rejection. So pain is an important part of the human experience, which so many people, we all try to avoid, but we have to embrace it.
Go towards it.
There's a beautiful saying by Joseph Campbell, imagine that when your life is falling apart, you just imagine you're falling, your life is falling apart. And everything's uncertain and there's chaos. So try to turn that free fall into a voluntary dive, where you're diving into uncertainty rather than just falling into it. And so it's a mindset shift, but it's still not easy. And the only way to do it is to do it.
So what does that look like for someone? Say someone has a fear, they want to take a quantum leap in their business. They want to, do something that's having them get out of the comfort zone. How would you work with somebody that's like, okay, I'm safe here, it's a little extreme. How do you have them take that going towards their pain? Is it just all in the mind?
A lot of it's in the mind, but I'd say the first 3 steps are the most important. So, taking that first leap and not looking at the big picture, because I think sometimes we look at our visions and our dreams and they seem so untenable that it's daunting. So look at some, instead of looking at the prize, focus on, I say, put your intention on the prize, put your attention on the pixels, on the little sort of dots that lead you there. And so I get people to look at and map 3, 4 goals that will get them to the first stage. And so it's really small things they can do every day to get them to where they want to be. And if they can, yeah.
We have goals, like when I'm working with people with goals, we have kind of the bigger picture, like we have, there's 2 levels of goals. One is linear, like I want to pay my car payment again next month. Like that's not a great goal. It's like, that's not exciting. And then there's like goals that are like, I want to be a billionaire. You're like, you're not even making $100,000. Like that's not probably a great goal for you. Like, so where's the goal that is exciting, that kind of stirs you up like, oh, if I get this, like if I really reach this, I got to get a little bit out of my comfort zone. But it's like not the extremes.
So you're saying how to get people to those goals that aren't extreme.
Well, just
yes,
reiterating what you're
absolutely,
saying.
Yes, absolutely. So I think you're absolutely right. It's getting people to really just, and this is the problem with goals, because we're all focused on what's next, and it takes us away from focusing on what's now. But the only way to get to what's next is to be here now and to focus on what's now. And it's getting people to think about what are the things they need to do today, simple things. You know, success is like a compounded investment, you know, when it comes to financing. And you know, from growing up, they always say, put some money aside every month, put $100 aside, and by the time, you know, 20, 30 years from now, you'll be a millionaire. And the same thing with our habits and with our actions. Every little incremental thing we do, if we do it consistently, will lead us to where we want to be. And so again, it's trying to keep people away from those bigger goals of being a billionaire and focus on, okay, what do you need to do this week, this month? Yeah.
I love that. Such important work. And I would imagine that you have clients that are specifically drawn to you because of your, you know, your story, what's your audience? Who's your audience?
So audience is varied. I work with a whole bunch of different people, but right now I just launched an academy about 6 months ago, which works with specifically, this is groups with high school students transitioning to college, college students preparing them for the real world, and also young professionals and businesses. So I'm working with a lot of different people who are kind of in transition.
Is that part of the Einstein legacy?
No, that's a whole new thing. This is Devon Academy. This is a new academy I launched about 6 months ago. I actually left the Einstein project to launch this.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And your name's very interesting. I mean, you have the Tree of Life, and then you have, you know, Divine. So it's you have a very powerful name.
Doctor of Divinity here.
Yes. So respecting your work for sure. I'm so excited for you and for everyone that's working with you. Powerful stuff for sure.
Thank you.
And where can people find you?
They can find me at www.elandevon.com, or the academy is www.devonacademy.com. Yeah, I'm here in LA a lot. I'm sort of becoming more bi-coastal, so I'm in LA, Toronto, New York.
And people can work with you virtually, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Love it. Great.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more on Good Morning La La Land.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I'm Kimberly Chang, and I'm a woman warrior.
And then another one, nonsense. I'm just kidding. You guys are all so newsy. I'm like, who was that? Was that Liberty?
Do you want the definition of a woman warrior?
Yeah, I'm going to ask. Oh, I'm definitely. She's like,
okay.
Give me the question. So it could be resilience.
I was just going to say that.
Okay, great. Done. Done. That's a great one. Woo! Love that.
We're going to keep it real on Sweat with Soul. That's right.
Okay. I said Dr. B Show. I'm just having fun. This is so hard. What else do I need to do? Oh. That's my life. That's funny. No, can we start all over? That's too much talking. Do I just talk again? That was so hard. Thank you.
Raquel Maiden is in the house. She is a Focus TV and Good Morning LaLa family member. We love you so much. She is a publicist. She's extraordinary at everything. I don't even know how to announce you.
She's a rock star.
She is definitely
okay, she's rocking Raquel right here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. So excited.
I love that dress. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
We're so grateful for the community you've created, not only for your brands, but for the continued conversation, all the support you've given us. And you've made some incredible introductions. You got Desert Daisy on right now. We know Dr. Erin wears Desert Daisy all the time. You do create an incredible community. Tell us about your company and PR and who you're working with and a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for that introduction. I'm flattered. Well, I've always been an entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 22 years old. Went to college, teamed up with a couple classmates, and we created a company to do websites. And from there, it grew to event planning, and then to PR. I work with a variety of clients, and I specialize in music, entertainment, and lifestyle brands. And right now, I'm working with some female entrepreneurs, some authors that have been on your show and some that are coming up. And as well, I do PR for bands and music and that, kind of fun alternative lifestyle.
And you don't just do PR, you also have a podcast. You do some really great interviews yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a music journalist. I write for Rock and Roll Industries magazine, and I've been doing that for 8 years. And it's so much fun because deep down, I love heavy metal music, and I've been able to interview the biggest rock stars in heavy metal, and it's really exciting to have those too.
Do you have a favorite interview you've ever done?
Yes, I love the band Megadeth, and interviewing Dave Mustaine, and everyone who follows me on social media knows that. Yeah,
that's so funny. Will you tell the audience out there, because some people don't know, what is a publicist? Like, what is?
A publicist is exactly, I guess what I'm doing now, going out there, creating brand awareness. I'm your cheerleader. I'm picking up that phone. I'm knocking on doors. I'm making sure that the business, the media that you want to get in front of knows who you are. So I create brand awareness.
What do you love most about what you do?
I like seeing people succeed. It's fun to be interviewed and get myself out there, but it's really exciting to know when you get a client in Newport Beach magazine, which I have, when you have one of your clients on the cover of OC Weekly and LA Weekly. I mean, it feels like you're doing your job, and it's fun, and that's success for me, seeing other people successful.
But as a publicist, I'm sure you know that creating those relationships and fostering those connections with the media, that's everything.
It is.
I mean, so much of what you do as a publicist is create exceptional relationships.
Yes, I like to build strong alliances, and you have your wonderful go-to people, and you have great guests or great people that you believe in. There's people like you guys that believe in what I have to offer and who I represent. Right now I'm building strong alliances with podcasts, because there's so many out there, and that's just another way to get your to create brand awareness for your business.
But what's the art in that, in building those alliances, right?
Yeah.
I think it's me. Just going out there, building that one-on-one communication, that friendship, that trust and loyalty that you guys are both gonna, do your job. And
so what's some hacks? Say someone is out there and they can't afford a publicist. What are some hacks for somebody that's trying to get their brand out into the world?
Sure. I would kind of take a seat back and look at your social media and look at your photos and look at your website. And is everything matching? Is everything aligned? If you didn't know what you did, or if you maybe ask like a friend, like, when you see my brand, does it say that I'm a publicist? Does it say that I'm in music? Those are really easy things to do. Just be really consistent in your message and your photos, and have that consistency.
What's been the hardest part for you in terms of turning your sort of passion, your purpose, into profit? Has it been the awareness itself, or is it something else?
I've been lucky. I've always been kind of like, had business, but I think what's really pushed me is really putting myself out there like I am right now, posting those successes on social media. No one's going to do it other than yourself, so be your own cheerleader. Say you know, just got on, you got a client on a website or a podcast, or I don't know, that you had a good day. That you.
It's a great point, and I think a lot of people, I know a lot of my clients struggle with like the self-promotion piece, and like what is a healthy, harmonious way to share your successes so that it feels like, you know, so it's palatable to other people. So you have any recommendations for people out there who know that they should be sharing of themselves more generously, but feel uncomfortable about it and don't know how far to take it?
Sure. I mean, it was, you know, I guess difficult to come out here. You know, you just have to do it. Kind of get over yourself, get out of your head. Kind of have that confidence you have something to give and share. So just, I mean, just do it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, practice makes you feel a little bit more familiar and comfortable
Exactly.
with it, right?
So what are you most excited about?
What am I most excited about? Well, we have some things working together. You know, just working with the clients that I have, building communities for females to get together and share their ups and downs, their successes.
Yeah.
I love it. What are you guys up to?
I mean, you'll leave us hanging.
Tease us and leave us hanging.
Well, she's working with the events.
Yeah, we're going to do some events together.
Yeah. I love
They're going to be super successful, and once, you know, they start getting off the ground, well, I'll be back.
No, but tell us about the events. What can we have to look forward to, and how can people find out more?
Sure. December 5th, we're going to be teaming up with Boss Babes, and Dr. Erin will be speaking about her amazing, you know, spirituality, how she helps clients, consulting, everything that you guys talk about, the world needs now. So I really love watching you guys, because, I mean, the world needs it, and it's fun, and community, and, you know, people on the same page.
Yeah, we're looking at we're doing the monthly events. So the monthly events will be, one of the monthly events is the mastermind stuff, and one of the monthly events is really for people that's in the, you know, spiritual community coming together, getting offline, having, you know, diving deep, and having some spiritual community.
I love that. Yeah. I'm always been so interested in the subconscious work you do, Erin, and so I'm always interested in getting like some tips and tricks about that. So maybe we can expect that in the event.
And I'll be bringing the girls, bringing the people, bringing the media, getting the attention that it deserves.
I love it.
But that's the brilliance, I think, of the communities, is that we find where people's strengths are, what they love, and then we team up, and that's the point. I think someone who's really wanting to get their brand out there, they need to know that they can't do it all. We're not designed, and Spirit doesn't want us to do it all. They want us to link up. Spirit, our true self, our higher self, wants us to link up together, and that's where the synergy happens, and that's where the magic happens, for sure.
And I definitely know what I'm good at, and I enjoy it. I love being a publicist and getting the word out there and finding creative ways to attract new people. So perfect match.
Yeah, I love it.
Where can people find you?
People can find me on my website, RaquelFiglo.com, and as well I'm on Instagram at Raquel Maiden, and yeah, all my handles are my name, Raquel Figlo.
Love it.
Love it.
So appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was so fun. You made it very easy.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Live from Los Angeles. Welcome back to Good Morning La La Land here on Wisdom Wednesday, Wealth Wednesday, all of the above.
Wisdom Wednesday,
right?
whatever.
Yes, exactly. Talking a little bit about purpose and passion and turning that into profit, I think, too. So the question I have for each of you is, you know, what tips might you have for people who want to discover their purpose or have already discovered their purpose and want to know how to turn their purpose and passion into profit, how to make money at it? Any recommendations?
Here you go.
So purpose, I guess, first to define, because it's a term that's thrown out so much. Purpose, to me at least, is aligning who you are with what you do. It's sort of aligning your heartbeat with the heartbeat of the universe, your nature, small n, with nature with a big N. And so how do you do that how do you find that, is try a lot of different things. I would recommend to people just to get out there and experiment and see what sticks and what makes them ultimately come alive. Because what makes you come alive is really the source of who you are and your passion. A lot of times, though, and going back to the whole pain thing, your pain will evoke your passion. It will lead you to your passion. So you look at some of the greatest leaders in the world, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, they were pained by a certain social injustice, and there was that pain which they experienced, which led them to find their passion. Mother Teresa was pained by the injustice and the squalor and the depravity in India, and that made her move halfway around the world to follow her passion. So a lot of times pain will lead you to your passion.
Love that. Absolutely agree with that. That's
so
my
true.
story. What about you?
Thank you. I think, you know, I finally am like living my passion. It took a long journey from like different jobs, or I guess from starting with marketing, then events to PR, but you kind of, like life is like a journey to where you think you're going to, where you want to go to. So I've always had a passion for music, and you know, I've been going to shows, writing, but I think right now with everything I learned in marketing and PR, I'm really able to give back to that. So now truly like living and working in my passion.
Yeah, so true.
It's important, I think, to recognize too, at least for me, that purpose and passion is something that you can live out on a moment-to-moment basis. And it's not, even though at the beginning I always felt that it was a destination, and eventually I would discover this thing was just me and all would be solved, but I've come to realize that it's a more process-oriented approach that makes for a happier journey and a more successful outcome, I think, in the long run.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting because when people do find their passion, they know what that is, and then it's like, how do we package it into a product? It's got to be a product. It's either got to be a service, or is it an asset, or is it, you know, the technology? What is that? What is the product? And that's where I think a lot of people are like, oh, how do I make this into a product that actually is valuable, that people actually want to? Because some people just go, well, I'm just going to be this, and they're going to discover me and find. No, you've got to have an actual product.
It's a beautiful, beautiful point. That happened to me 10 years ago. So I graduated from Harvard, and I thought, I had a book, and I thought, world, come and receive me. And no one was waiting for me. And I had to work 10 years to kind of hone my passion and break it down and understand the world and how things operate and understand people and organizations and business, so I can relate this passion in a very practical way and have a product, as you say. So it's so true.
Even with coaches, you know, they'll go, well, I'm the product and I'm just going to put it out there. But people need to understand this is a product, this is what is received in these different packages. And there's also very much a scientific basis of what the different levels of packages work for people. And people have to understand those things and put it into practicality, because it has to first make sense at a gut level, like trusting someone, then it's got to make an emotional connection with them, and then it logically has to make sense financially to have that much value. So it's such a process, and a great process, but I love finding the passion's the best part of working with clients, for sure. All those details, right?
It's true, and that being said, there are always exceptions to the rule.
Totally.
Right? So you've got people like Eckhart Tolle, who, I mean, he wrote something, but it wasn't like all that well packaged in the very beginning, and he just had, you know, his audience continued to grow and grow and grow, and then eventually he self-published it, and then eventually it became huge. But yeah, if you want to sort of set yourself up for success, you do want to probably be more strategic and intentional about it, right?
Yeah, I think he did a lot of talks. Probably his package was talks, and then he probably had to link up with somebody who was putting those talks together while he was meditating, right? You know.
And notice it was the pain, right? Yeah. So he was on a state of depression, anxiety, was even contemplating his own suicide, and it was that moment, that dark night of the soul, that he kind of had this awakening, where he couldn't live with he had to choose between which self he wanted to live with. The same with Tony Robbins, the same with Deepak Chopra, the same with Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret. It wasn't when they were in their optimal state, all positive. It was when they were down that they actually found their passion.
Yeah, and that's like 100%. And there are caveats to that too, right? We have a lot of musicians and a lot of artists, and no pain. They just knew right away, like at 12, that they were going to be a pop singer, and boom,
yeah, pop singer.
Yeah.
So you know, we mentioned it several times, and your whole branding is find your spark, leave your mark. What is it that you want your mark to be?
Question.
That I want the person's mark to be, or
yours.
More mark to be. What I want my mark to be, I want people to wake up. So I want people to align with who they are and bring that forward, to actually be individuals and not, you know, replicas of their parents or society or, you know, other ideas they have in their head. So that's the mark I want to leave on each individual, is getting people to wake up.
What about you? What's your mark?
I love that.
My mark, I mean, I love giving back. I mean, everything I've done has always been a lot really in philanthropy, but I think I would like to help. Well, I know I'm helping young women by doing these events to kind of to find your self-worth and what you're able to give and your qualities inside. So hopefully, I mean, well, bringing that out as a publicist, but yeah, really helping people find the qualities in them and their worth.
And a little rock and roll, right?
And a little rock and roll.
So is there a lot of rock and roll still going on in Southern Cal?
Yeah, there is. I'm going to a show this Friday. I was just interviewed on Razor Radio, which is all like heavy metal and like thrash metal, you know, really kind of fun music. So yeah, there's a lot going on. Follow on Instagram and you'll see all the rock and roll.
I just have this vision of you like driving down to like Orange County, like listening to some
usually wearing a black leather jacket, some studs, leather pants, boots.
I can't wait to see the rock and roll band Thrasher that opens up for Dr. Erin at the spiritual event. This is going to be a very interesting thing.
That's awesome.
I think it's so rad.
Why not? Why not? Open-minded, right? Awaken up, open up.
All spiritual. It's all spiritual.
Even in rock and roll.
Elon will come in and.
Yeah.
So true.
They have that already. There's this whole movement called Daybreakers, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I love Daybreaker.
Right, Daybreakers.
So Daybreaker is a party that started on the East Coast, and they launched it in LA about 3 years ago. And they're morning parties, like a morning party we have here every day on Good Morning LaLaLand.
Right.
Yeah, we are America's first live streaming daily talk show, coming to you Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes.
That's right. We're waking up the world together. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and follow these extraordinary divine people.
It's going to be a Good Morning LaLaLand.